running out of the types of players you need to win matchups against elite defenses like Kansas City.
Have the fourth toughest schedule remaining. The road doesn't get any easier for the 49ers.
The rest of the league and the rest of the division is starting to catch up. But you see that the leaders of the new schools starting to come. The Lions are starting to come to the party. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers are starting to come to the party. This window is now. If they don't win in the next couple of years, I think they're going to have to reboot and start all over with a new core.
The San Francisco 49ers are one of the NFL's super teams. On paper, they have amassed more weapons than any other franchise in football, with George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk all contributing to the offense as superstars in their own right. However, following the Super Bowl loss last season, this team is just not the same. A string of bad injury luck combined with an aging roster has significantly dampened the 49ers' outlook through Week 8. And in today's video, we're going to be going over why their Super Bowl window might be closing in front of your very own eyes. Are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest and easiest payouts in the industry, along with 24/7 personalized service 365 days a year. Not only that, but they have live wagering on all major games, so if you see something mid-game and want to make a wager on it, you can. And the best part is you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And now look, you guys knew I had to come through with you guys for a promo code, so make sure that you guys are using code YouTube150 for a nice 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. That's right, we were doing 125%, but we said screw that, we're giving you guys 150% instead. Again, that is promo code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. Again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, but for now, let's hop back into it. Now, first and most importantly, we have to talk about the injuries that they have been facing this season. As we all know, Christian McCaffrey was the first major player to go down for the 49ers this season, suffering from Achilles tendonitis in both ankles. What was once believed to be a short-term injury now has an ever-changing timetable for return. San Fran is expected to activate McCaffrey for a return to practice following their bye week, but it still remains to be seen whether McCaffrey can get healthy and actually stay healthy. This dude is simply the offensive engine for San Francisco, and without him, it simply isn't the same. Jordan Mason has been doing a great job in relief, but the skill set that Christian McCaffrey brings is truly irreplaceable, and particularly as a receiver. The other major key injury that this team just has to face now is with fellow star Brandon Ayuk, who tore both his ACL and MCL on a massive hit to his right knee against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago, ending his season. Honestly, this one is just a major hit to this San Francisco team, who it just feels like they can't get their feet under them in 2024. Yes, they looked pretty good against the Cowboys last night, but overall, still, it was kind of shaky. And if the Cowboys weren't going to just completely choke it like the Cowboys normally do, then we could be talking about it differently from last night's game. Honestly, they haven't been able to get their feet under them for many just reasons outside of their control. After just signing their young stud wide receiver to a massive contract extension with huge guaranteed money, Kyle Shanahan no longer has Brandon Ayuk at his disposal to try and run it back this year. It's also worth noting that he was not exactly shining on field prior to the injury, so all around a pretty miserable season for Ayuk. Meanwhile, Deebo Samuel was forced to go to the hospital just before Sunday's game 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs with a pneumonia diagnosis, and currently he does look like it's okay, as he did play in the game against the Cowboys. But again, it just is another thing that we have to keep our eye on for injuries for this team. Just plain and simple, it seems Brock Purdy's favorite targets can't seem to catch a break, and it's going to affect how they look on the field. Hell, even, last night, Brock Purdy looked pretty good, but the week before that against the Chiefs, the dude particularly just did not have a good day. Comparing Mahomes to Brady, and despite Patrick Mahomes throwing 2 picks and 0 touchdowns on his way to recording his worst ever quarterback rating, the Chiefs trounced the 49ers 28-18 in the rematch of last year's Super Bowl. Purdy somehow, he managed to look even worse than Mahomes though, throwing 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions of his own, which was good enough for a 13.4 QBR and a 36.7 passer rating. The dude barely eclipsed 200 yards on the day, and though he did have 2 rushing touchdowns, one of them came in garbage time, and the Niners were completely out of the game for the most part in the second half of the Chiefs game. And while it is totally fair to say that this team was undermanned against the Chiefs while they were missing Ayuk, Deebo, and even Christian McCaffrey too, the reality is now is that Ayuk's not going to be on the field for the rest of the season, and who knows when McCaffrey's even going to come back for real. Honestly, the dude might just be out for the entire year or just come back very late into the season, and who knows what their playoff chances are going to be like with just how the NFC West is in complete shambles right now. And now, yes, after the loss to the Chiefs, they were sitting at an underwhelming 3-4 record, but as we saw last night, they did pull it together and they did beat the Cowboys. It wasn't convincingly, but they did still manage to beat them, but it's usually not up to their usual standards to be sitting at a 4-4 record. It's not all doom or gloom though, as San Francisco will likely be getting 2 of their 3 stars back sooner rather than later, and the wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 combo of Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall is better than most starting lineups in the NFL currently. And now as we look at the remainder of the 49ers schedule, I'm not gonna lie, it's tough. With a matchup coming up at home against the Cowboys, which they did take down, but it's gonna be followed by the Bucks, Seahawks, Packers, Bills, Bears, Rams, Dolphins, Lions, and the Cardinals to close out the regular season. Like 7 of those teams are 500 or above, and the Rams and Dolphins will have Puka Nacua and Tua Tagovailoa back respectively for each of those teams. Plus, on top of this too, the Niners have already lost to the Cardinals in their previous matchup this season. So the road to the playoffs is far from easy for San Francisco, but it's not impossible. There is just one glaring issue for this team that I just can't take my mind off of, despite how they won the game last night and just how they might win the division even though it's just NFC West is just a complete crapshoot. It's just that there are significantly better and more talented and just younger teams in the NFC that the Niners are going to have to compete with in January. And as we see, they can't stay healthy right now. And if they can't stay healthy, then how are they going to be able to compete with these teams in January? Of course, the Detroit Lions are a fan favorite, and for a good reason. I mean, I even hope the Lions can make it to the Super Bowl. Even without Aiden Hutchinson, the Lions have one of the most complete rosters in football, and Jared Goff is consistently putting up games with a completion percentage of 80+%. Also in the NFC North, you have the Packers with Jordan Love and one of the most talented young receiving corps in the league. Then you have the Vikings, who have looked unstoppable so far this season with Sam Darnold at the helm, and a quickly rising Bears team with Caleb Williams, who's really starting to come into his own. I mean, hell, that isn't even mentioning the best rookie quarterback in the NFC, Jaden Daniels, and the Commanders, who are looking like a serious powerhouse and might be the favorites to win that division at this point, with Dallas and Philadelphia really struggling. Kirk Cousins has shown big flashes in Atlanta. Baker has looked like an MVP candidate on the Bucs at times, and I mean, you still can't count out the Eagles as always. All that pretty much to say that this year, it's not the same as last year or as years prior, to where the Niners just looked like far and away the best team in the NFC. And I mean, honestly, to be frank with you, I don't think it will be like that for any time from here on out, just as long as they have all of the underlying issues that I'm about to go over in the last one that's going to absolutely just be the deciding factor for this Niners team. As we all know, Trent Williams is coming up on 37 years old. George Kittle can't play like this forever, and who knows how many seasons McCaffrey has left as a game breaker with all of the injury concerns. They have their quarterback in Brock Purdy, but without the league's best cast of weapons, he may start to look like more of the quarterback people believed he was coming out of Iowa State. And I mean, like it or not, it's fair to say that the window is closing for the 49ers as we speak. Like, I mean, they're the 7th oldest team in the NFL, and it's really starting to show. Like, let's be realistic. Things aren't going to completely fall apart for San Francisco. Like, Kyle Shanahan is one of the real few difference makers as a head coach in the NFL, and he is a perfect match for Brock Purdy. His scheme will keep the Niners competitive even when the overall talent on the roster begins to decline. But can he will them to be Super Bowl contenders? Probably not. I mean, for example, I know the Rams did win this week on Thursday night, and it was an awesome game, but let's take them for example and just kind of, what might be a sneak peek for the Niners' future if they continue this trend. Like, McVay is another one of those coaches that actually makes a significant difference on the outcome of the game for his team, and they have a future Hall of Fame quarterback leading the offense, but still, the Rams are at 4-4. Just 3 years ago, the Rams won the Super Bowl, but with bad injury luck for Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and the loss of talent in Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Andrew Whitworth, the Rams find themselves amidst a free fall in 2024. But again, I mean, they are starting to come out of it, but it could turn south really bad if they can't keep these wins coming. Like, they still do have plenty of top-end talent, especially now that their star receivers are back, but it's just not enough to overcome some of the glaring issues with this team, which will most likely start to appear for the 49ers as well. On top of the issues of just the age that we have for this team, there's money issues as well. Like, I mean, just because of how talented the 49ers roster is, that also means they're going to have to spend a lot of money if they want to keep this team together. And yes, while Purdy is a great player to build your team around, he's about to be off his rookie contract. That means he's going to require a lot more money. Money that the 49ers do not currently have. Like, I mean, this is just insane as I read it, because Purdy's incredible, valuable rookie contract is why they've been able to put together such a talented roster. And when they inevitably immediately have to sign him to a huge contract, they will have to make some tough business decisions elsewhere, reducing overall talent of the team. And I mean, with that contract coming up for renegotiation next year, there is a lot of pressure on this season. They are likely very close to having to initiate a rebuild, and while they do have some exciting talent to build around, if this team can't get back on track immediately this season, there probably won't be another chance for the team to win a championship with this core. And now look, I know I focused a lot on this offense just kind of because that's where just a majority of this talent is, but this defense has some big names as well that take a big chunk of the salary cap as well. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner are two of the league's best at their respective positions and make a combined $53 million a year. Even if general manager John Lynch tries to somehow maintain all of their top end talent, the team will have significant depth issues. This makes a big difference when dealing with injuries, which San Francisco is unfortunately all too familiar with at the moment. It's also just a fact that many of the 49ers stars are somewhat injury prone. So I mean, even if the core remains together past this season, what are the actual odds that they're all healthy and ready to go come January, or even for a potential Super Bowl run? I'd say like maybe mediocre at best. I mean, honestly, just coming back to just focusing on their chances that they have this year at winning a championship, and personally for me, this team just hasn't had that much time to gel as a complete unit. Like, I mean, a prime example of this is just how we saw Brandon Ayuk perform just after a couple weeks after his holdout. He just didn't have time to build that rapport and just kind of same camaraderie and just timing that he had with Brock Purdy last year. Obviously, yes, they were in training camp and things like that, and I know he had the holdout, but just all of that drama really didn't allow for him to build the relationship and all the timing and new plays that they might have enveloped in training camp to keep this roster and just keep the team moving in the right direction. And I mean, even when the injury did occur, you could just argue that he wasn't even playing at the best of his ability either. Like, I mean, this has to be a concern for the 49er offense, who need Christian McCaffrey to be firing on all cylinders the moment he steps back on the field. And the same can be said about Debo, who nobody knows what to expect from once he has gotten over his hospital trip for pneumonia. There just are going to be several key players who simply haven't had many reps with the team this year, which creates the potential for issues to show up when it matters most. Like, I mean, the margin for error is razor thin. Taking into account San Francisco's 4-4 record and the difficult upcoming schedule, if CMC and Debo aren't caught up to speed, especially if they aren't 100% healthy from their ailments, there are going to be uncharacteristic mistakes all around this offense. Thankfully, the matchup against the Cowboys last night was a perfect opportunity for the Niners to get right and get back to 500, with just Purdy coming back and just having a chance to recover from one of the worst games of his career against the soft Dallas defense. And as we all know, a well-timed bye in week 9 will only help matters, giving some extra cushion for players to get healthy and Shanahan to develop a game plan as they prepare for a brutal schedule down the stretch. 49ers fans were desperate to see a solid performance out of Purdy last night against the Cowboys, as he's been good this season, operating in Kyle Shanahan's system perfectly and adding in an element of creativity with his legs and ability to buy time this year. As we all know, over his 2 seasons in the NFL, Purdy has taken the 49ers to the playoffs twice, including a Super Bowl trip, but he has still shown signs of weakness against stronger defenses, and the narrative around him is that he still needs his superstars to succeed. Like, I mean, the dude has shown enough to get his payday for sure, but there's no doubt that his current sub $1 million contract is the ultimate cheat code, and it is the sole reason why this team is remaining competitive despite the injuries. And with San Francisco presumably losing that bargain contract next year, it's almost officially time to turn the page to a new era of 49er football. Some of the biggest names will be heading for other teams, and a new chemistry and team culture will have to be built. With all of that in mind, all the pressure was on 2024, and it has been a disaster so far. Bad play and injuries all around mean that a Super Bowl run looks unlikely, and with everything that the team are likely to have to deal with next year from a roster perspective, it also means the San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl window is officially shut. But I want to know what you guys think. How good do you think the Niners are just going to be able to finish this season? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, if you do enjoy this content, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. It lets me know to keep doing more of these. Shout out to our sponsor, BetUS. Make sure that if you have any futures you want to take over there, I've already taken Jaden Daniels for future. The rookie of the year. I took that at the beginning of the season. I took him and Marvin Harrison Jr. Luckily, it's going to be Jaden Daniels. I mean, unless he just gets injured or everything, as we all saw from the game yesterday, the dude can just win. But that's a whole different video. So we're going to continue talking about the Niners, though. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Honestly, again, I think the Niners, just their contract situation is going to be screwed after next year. Obviously, the salary cap, we don't really know how it works unless you do. If you do, explain it to me in the comment section, because I don't know how the Saints get away with just being over the cap every year and signing players still. But again, if you can explain that to me, explain it to me so that way I can understand better. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next one.